So if I'm going to compare the Crystal Palace guys, I'm not going to double up on them, like I said. So I'm just going to have Gallagher on my shortlist. And it'll kind of go down from there. Like, you're not going to double up on Arsenal defenders. So Ben White's probably the best option in terms of his solidity for starts, etc. So that's why I narrow it down with player by player. Then look at the formation of the team structure, identify who the fringe players are going to be. So, and how well that they rotate. So what I mean by that is there'll be mainstays in your team every week. There'll be James Trent and Cancelo, and then Livramento, and for example, someone like Duffy or White would be your fringe player. And how well do they rotate potentially with your other fringe player, which might be Smith Rowe, it might be Gallagher, or it might be someone like Armstrong at Southampton. So then you would look at those guys and think, right, make sure I can put out 11 decent players every single week. Captain Matrix is really important. I've got a fixture ticker that I'll have a look at in a second that I made, and then plan a few transfers and make sure you can afford them, which is what I've just touched on with the pod team. So, for example, there's a couple of ways of doing this where I need to free up some money to be able to move to a premium striker at some point, because I think that will be a move that needs to happen. So that's how I've gone about looking at it. I did a fixture ticket which I've modified. So the green on here for YouTube watchers is where a team has got a run of favourable fixtures in a row that's more than 3 games. The amber is when a team's got a run of fixtures in a row which are two good games. And the reds are the really tough fixtures, which are your Man City's, Chelsea's, Man United's, Liverpool, Spurs, probably West Ham away, Leicester away, a few of those ones that are going to be really, really difficult. So it's about looking at patterns and trends, and when these guys are going to end up being good teams to be able to get onto. So you see here for Chelsea, from game week 16, they go on a really good run. Now with Chelsea, it's really important to bear in mind, I'm going to flick back to this graphic in a second, but I wanted to look at Ben Crellin's planner that we looked at on the first ever podcast. Is that game week 17 and 18, they are potential blanks for the Club World Cup for Chelsea. They might not end up actually playing games in those game weeks, just to bear in mind on that one. So to go back here again, Crystal Palace have got a good run now up front here. Leicester have got 4 in a row. Liverpool have just got a really good favourable run there as well. So these are the sort of teams you'll be looking at targeting, but also wanted to look at Man United's run here from game week 15 all the way through to game week 22. Then there's West Ham in the middle, and then Burnley and Southampton. They've got an incredible run of fixtures. So if they've gained form by them, we need to be potentially looking at Ronaldo, maybe even Bruno at that point. Spurs have got that great run, etc. So you'd look at this and think about your planning of your transfers and your planning moving forward. Teams also you might want to avoid, but that's something that you can maybe screen grab and digest yourself. But that for me is important for looking at when you really want to be planning to jump on teams anyway, moving forward. The other thing on this from Ben Crellin, follow him if you want to go on Twitter and have your mind blown by how he figures out how the fixtures are all going to work out. I don't know how he does it, but I try my best, but he still is just incredible. AFCON. So African Cup of Nations is game week 22 and 23 is going to take a lot of players out, and there's rumours going around that they'd have to leave a little bit earlier and they might miss either 1, 2 or 3 of game weeks 19, 20 and 21. I can't see that happening for the top level clubs, to be honest. But still, you'd have a look at these guys, game week 20, game week 21. You wouldn't be gambling on a player that was going to play an AFCON, basically. That sort of thing is another thing to bear in mind. A lot of back-to-back games here as well. Since now, it's run up to Christmas now. Game week 12, then there's a Champions League midweek. Then there's 3 Premier Leagues in a row, the first midweek Premier League fixtures, more European football, and then you've got the Christmas period. So again, do you want to go too many gambles or not? Too many rotation players? Probably not at this time of year. But again, these are all factors that I bring into it. But that's the fixtures moving forward. So here's where I am at the moment, watchlist wise. For the pod listeners, Sanchez and Gaeta as my keepers. I've got Ramsdale or Foster that'll back up, and it could literally be any of those 2 from 4 there. I still haven't fully decided. But Sanchez and Gaeta are still in because Gaeta's gone up in price, and I knew he was going to go up in price, so I could put him in before he did, so I can afford him at 4.5. Now he's 4.6. Sanchez, if I want to keep him, I'm not going to release the value. He's 4.6, so I'm not going to take him out. But Ramsdale and Foster are there. Rudiger, James, Trent, Cancelo, and Livramento. I think I've decided if I'm going to keep double Chelsea, I'm going to go Chilwell and James. I think if I'm going to do it, I'm going to just go for the double on that one. I probably won't, and I'll probably downgrade to one of either White or Lamptey, probably, because I like the gamble on Lamptey. But he's probably a bit more injury prone. I'm not going to double up on White and Ramsdale, and I'm not going to double up on Sanchez and Lamptey because I don't want to double up on those defences. So it's either going to be Chilwell for Rudiger, I think, on this one, or it's going to be White for Rudiger on this currently. Midfield's interesting because I think it's going to be Jota in for Rafinha, but Rafinha at the moment, I still have 0.1's worth of value wrapped up in. So if I do decide to keep him and I put Jota in for Smith Rowe instead, then I want to keep that value. But I activated my wild card on the Saturday game week when the game week 11 was still going on. So I got Smith Rowe and Gallagher in before their price rises. So I activated early. I've actually saved somewhere between 0.4 and 0.7 million here by activating my wild card early and getting these guys in just in case I want to keep them. But midfield wise, Smith Rowe, Gallagher, Rafinha, Salah, Foden, Son, Jota. It's never Havertz. Need to take him off. And Mbuemo, who I might have in there as a cheap player if I don't have Tony up front, which I probably won't again. It's going to be 3 from 8. 5 from 8. Smith Rowe, Gallagher, Rafinha, Salah, Foden, Son, Jota, and Mbuemo. I genuinely, again, obviously Salah's in, but I haven't fully decided who they're going to be yet, but that's my watch list. And then up front, it's an absolute shower of you-know-what. I've got Wilson, Jimenez, and Tony in at the moment. Tony's almost certainly going to come out because I've not been that impressed with him, if I'm honest. Probably for someone like Armstrong, because that also frees up more money for future transfers to strikers up front. And my formation, I'm going to play 2 up top rather than 3. But the shortlist, Antonio, I've got King, Aubameyang, Ronaldo, Hwang, Armstrong, Edouard, Watkins, Kane. Like it's all a bit up in the air. But I think I'm going to go Jimenez, Wilson, and Armstrong. Personally, that's where I'm at this very moment in time, because that gives me a decent bench option with Armstrong, but also it frees up a bit more money to be able to spend on future transfers. Boys, what would you do different? Sorry, I've waffled on a little bit there. What would you do different? What do you like? What don't you like? Hit me.
I think what I'd do different is Hwang for Jimenez. I just think that's a lot of money. What's that? 1.9 million saved. So that's a lot of money. And when I've watched him, I like, try and watch as much football as I can, pretty much every match and every highlight. I've been really impressed with Hwang. And I feel like Jimenez does get rested a little bit. I think they are protecting him a little bit, whereas I think Hwang will pretty much play week in, week out. And I think if they were a bit closer in value, I think it'd be a tough one. But I think that 1.9 million, I feel like it's just, for me, it just frees up elsewhere. That's the big one that I saw there.
Interesting. Tommy?
Pretty much very similar. I'd probably be bringing Hwang in for Jimenez. I don't think that you get much more from Jimenez than you do from Hwang. And I'm looking to get rid of Tony as soon as possible.
So for Tony, then the best Tony replacements, if let's say Hwang's in for Jimenez, would you potentially even look at just putting Hwang in for Tony in this?
No.
I wouldn't keep Hwang and Jimenez. That's too much Wolves attack, isn't it? I'd be saying Jimenez down to Hwang and Tony down to frankly anyone. I don't back Brentford anymore. And Tony, even when they were playing well, wasn't getting results, and they've got a really horrible run of fixtures.
So Tony, I think Armstrong, or do what? Because he's the person I would, if I was downgrading Tony, I'm thinking of going to at the moment. So.
I look at Hwang and Armstrong, 0.1 million difference. I think Hwang's way better than Armstrong. That's surprising. But we scored opening week, and then he did score a worldie on Friday, didn't he? The last game week. It does seem to play every week, doesn't he? He looks lively, is what I would say about Adam Armstrong.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would not double up Wolves either.
You're better gambling on Armstrong, I think. Going for Armstrong, you get extra value to put elsewhere in your team. And then when Watford's fixtures get a little bit better, I'd probably be looking at King. They've got a horrible run, Watford, but it's an easy switch from Armstrong to King when that happens.
Well, the interesting thing on that is, so yeah, I was looking at that, and this guy's going to sit on my bench anyway, this third striker. So do I go for King because he's just going to sit on my bench anyway for these horrendous Man United, Leicester, Chelsea, and Man City get fixtures anyway? So then free up the money.
What about Pookie? Don't Norwich have a good run?
I couldn't bring myself to do it with Norwich. And yeah, do you know what they do? They actually have a good run of fixtures. I can't. I don't know. Again, with Dean Smith, though, it might end. No.
That's why I was looking at Watkins. Gerrard.
Yeah. Well, the thing is with Watkins is he still, if their fixtures were a bit better, I'd seriously be considering him because he's always going to play. He's going to play 90 minutes every week because he's going to protect Ings because Ings is the cripple. So Watkins is going to play. And I mean, they've got Brighton and Palace next to, but then they've got City, Leicester, and Liverpool.
But it's like you said with that player, though, do they rotate well with Hwang and whoever?
Interesting. I'll take a look because I've not actually looked at that. So Hwang, they play Liverpool and Leicester on the same game week to those guys, but but Man City and Hwang has Burnley. So they do rotate okay. But with this formation as well, I mean, if I've got Ben White in, Livramento can still start. So, yeah.
You've got a strong defence there, haven't you? Which means you're going to be less likely to play 3 up top, aren't you, I guess?
Yeah, I would only play 2 up front. I think that's my max. I mean, I might even go 4-5-1 or something a couple of game weeks because at the moment the strikers aren't showing the value.
No.
So I'm not massively bothered. But then obviously looking back at those fixture runs that I've looked at previously, I want to be able to have the flexibility to get to Ronaldo or Kane or even Lukaku now he's back in training. But I want that flexibility to be able to get to those guys because I can't see them not performing for an entire season. There will be shifts. There always is. I mean, look at us all. We're all smashing our money into defence at the moment. It's hilarious.
You've got to think as well now. I think I just read like 4 months from another international break. We're going to have a run of club football now. We've been it's been a weird start to the season because of COVID and the World Cup being closer. Yeah. It's been a bit disjointed with players in and out. But now you're going to have a big run, and I agree. I'd be tempted on Lukaku because I think he's going to deliver sooner or later.
He will eventually. And the Club World Cup thing, it sits with me though. I'm like, do I? Because in 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time, when the fixtures get good, but then is it going to be 3 weeks and then he doesn't play for 2 weeks? But anyway, that's my other thing. And then also one of the things I was going to say was it's 17 and 18 that they don't play. So game week 17 and 18 for Chelsea, Everton and Wolves. just whang. Might not have a game in game week 18. But anyway, that's all in the future. I love our call high level planning. That's Ben Crellin calling it high level planning for himself. Right. So getting off this, let's get off that slide and then move on to questions. So I've got questions for this week. Let me click onto here. Oh, that was a form table. Wanted to have a look at that. So have you seen how bad this form is, by the way? Look at this for Man United at the bottom. They've got 1 win in the last 6. Villa obviously won, but then 5 losses in a row. Newcastle 3 draws. And you can tell why there's so many managers that have changed, they've changed around. But West Ham top of the table and Arsenal up there as well.
Some may say, how have the bottom 4 not all changed the managers, really?
Oh, yeah, that probably should have done.
It is bad when you look at that and you see the teams have all sacked their managers and then they've got tiny budgets. And well, not tiny budgets, that's not true. I take that back. Villa have got absolute billions, but they've got, much less resources or stature of player than Man United do. And somehow Man United have still not sacked him. It's brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's a Cinderella story for all of us other fans.
It really is. In the bottom 6 for pod listeners, in the bottom 6 of the form table, 4 of them have sacked their managers. The other one's Man United, and the other one's Brentford, who are obviously not sacking Thomas Frank. So for a little bit of bad form because of how well he's done, he's got some credit in the bank. So yeah, but brings on to the first one. So I want to turn it over to you boys and to ask you a little bit about your opinions. And obviously we talked a bit about Conte before, so maybe very briefly on him, but how we think the Gerrard, Dean Smith, and Eddie Howe, how are they going to do?
I'm excited by him, I must say. I think they're exciting managers. Dean Smith's Dean Smith. We know what we're going to get from him. I think he played pretty good football at Villa last year. I think Gerrard's, I think he's an unbelievable job at Rangers. I think he's going to come and I think the orders feel very attacking. We know what Eddie Howe is. He's quite frankly said, I never go into a game of football not wanting to lose. I always want to win. So it's going to be some interesting games, especially if we get some money to spend in January. I've heard rumours of a 200 million war chest coming in January, so that will be interesting. But I think they're exciting managers to gamble on some players, and we've mentioned Wilson already. We've mentioned potentially a Watkins. I think it adds a different dynamic, doesn't it? Which is always exciting.
Which players do you think like that are gonna be the ones to shine? Those who would you be looking at now? I'm not talking about bringing into the team immediately. Obviously, we've discussed Wilson, but who would you be having on that watch list of people to keep an eye on?
Yeah, I'd weirdly keep an eye on Pookie, just in case. For banter. And then I wouldn't be looking at any defensive players for Newcastle. Again, I don't think Eddie Howe will be doing that. But yeah, the boy, maybe someone a bit cheaper. I don't know. Tom, thoughts?
Well, Newcastle, Wilson. I'd probably be looking at Matt Ritchie as well, just because his attacking numbers, his statistics of all. I know Matt Ritchie, but his attacking statistics are ridiculous. And with someone like Eddie Howe, maybe you get some actual returns there. And with Callum Wilson back, Villa, I'd probably think that Buendia is someone that's just on the edge of being, really good. Maybe Gerrard can tap into him. Maybe he can't. I don't know. I wouldn't look at anyone at Norwich. I don't care who goes in there. They're still going to be Norwich. Still the same set of players. They still sold every time they got promoted their best players. I know they maybe have to, but no, don't look at Norwich.
It's just their club structure, isn't it? They're just I know they're destined to yo-yo, aren't they? I mean, that's more of a footballing topic, isn't it? But you're right. That is just what they do. But yeah, Spurs obviously under Conte. What the eye test seems to see the fullbacks getting forward.
Yeah, I would say for Spurs, your fullbacks are the ones out there. He's pretty solid in the way he sets his teams up. You Emerson Royals, Reguilons come to mind. They certainly look like they could be in ones to bring in. And then let's not forget Saint-Maximin at Newcastle.
It's true, and he can do it, can't he? I love watching him play.
It's just annoyingly a striker, isn't he?
Yeah, weird. If he was a midfielder, it'd be much better. But saying that, we don't have many striking options. I think they all have an opportunity in their first couple of fixtures. I mean, don't get me wrong, Gerrard's is a little bit tough. Obviously, City, Leicester, and Liverpool after he plays Brighton, who are a good team. And Palace, who have also been in good form. Gerrard definitely has the tougher fixtures there, but the rest of these guys have some really good chances to try and see what they're going to do.
Anyone open for a last-minute Villa winner there on game week 16, and Gerrard just a need slide down?
Get in the camera's face.
Yeah,
Villa win. Come on, we've done it. Yeah. That's going to be an interesting one for it. Liverpool away for Steven Gerrard in game week 16. But yeah, some interesting ones to point out and to watch. And I also want to say, just with Aston Villa, if Leon Bailey stays fit, we might maybe see something from him. I just don't know how they're going to play, because didn't Gerrard play like 4-3-3 in Scotland a lot? From what I know, I mean, I think I'm the one of the three of us that watch a bit of Scottish football, to be fair. But he seems to play 4-3-3, and how that fits with maybe Bailey, Watkins, and Ings, I don't know. But it could be all options to watch out for anyway. Tavernier got forward a lot there, didn't he? Captain, back. Matty Cash. He's the man, isn't he, surely?
The Polish Matty Cash.
The Polish Matty Cash. He had Polish names, wasn't he? That's the thing that changed. So, yes, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a look at... So I asked about rotation this season. And is it worth the gamble? So I watched a video on obviously, you can imagine on FPL, because what else do I do with my life at 11 o'clock in the evening? And one of the things was to be more open-minded about your perceptions of your previous perceptions and having a look at how things have changed and being open-minded to those changes. And one of the things I've been really, really stubborn on is I don't put players in my team that are massively rotated because it doesn't make me enjoy the game, like sweating the team sheets every week so much. And also, I don't think it's been worth it. And I looked at the statistics from last season. So all 38 game weeks for Chelsea, for an example. And the points per match for Ben Chilwell were 5.15. And for Antonio Rudiger, it was 4.89. For an example, Azpilicueta, 4.35. Realistically, we weren't even looking at a point per game's worth of difference in terms of statistics. So it wasn't worth putting the rotating players in there. It wasn't worth the gamble. Whereas to compare that to this season, if it's going to let me do it for the whole of that, it is. Looking at Chilwell, he's averaging off 5 appearances, 9 points a game. James off, I think it's 10 appearances, 8 and 2 subs. He's averaging 7.88 points a game. Now, even with Alonso, he was averaging 6.5. We have to come down to Rudiger at 5.3. So Rudiger is averaging 3 points, 2.5 points a game less than what Reece James is. And they're decent sample sizes there. So it's with players like Livramento backing up and players like, even if it's White or Dunk or whatever else, Duffy, who can come in and replace. The statistics this season show us, and it's the same with Man City, by the way. They show us that quite simply, it is worth it. Cancelo at 6.09, you've got points per game. You've got to come back down to Diaz at 4.45. So in previous seasons, it hasn't been worth the risk. It hasn't been worth putting these players in at all. Whereas this season, it has to be said, looking at the points per game that they're achieving at this very moment in time, I'm not saying fill your team with them, but it's worth having that James and Cancelo and Trent at the back rather than going for your Diaz, Rudiger and Trent like last season when it was more worthwhile to do so. But I wanted to try to be as open-minded as I could be to maybe making those changes. And in my wildcard team, you'll see Cancelo and James with Trent. I don't know if you boys had any a take on that at all, but it seems like a big shift this season compared to last.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't disagree with anything he said. I don't really have anything to add to that, apart from I was always a gambler anyway, so I was always going to have Chilwell and people like that before you'd even shown me all those statistics that you've just gone through. So,
yeah. Well, and I think that's the thing for people who've played fantasy for however many years, like I have. I've just been kicked in the you-know-whats by so many times by rotation, and it's not been worth it. And now we said it is.
I think we've talked about rotation so much, though, and I think the crux of it is, so it's showing that the statistics show that it's all right at the moment because Chelsea are pushing forward with wing backs and stuff like that. But when we've talked about this previously, if you've got 9-10 players that you are 100% sure are pretty much going to start if they're fit, then you can afford to have the 1 or 2 rotation players. I think that's the whole thing. You've got backup on the bench that can come on. Yeah, okay. Every now and then they might come on and get 10 minutes and get a couple of, 1 point. It's not the end of the world. As long as the rest of your team is solid and you know they're going to play.
Yeah, and they've got to be players, like you say, that are worth it. So, and I think the main ones this season that are worth it, you look at your wing backs for Chelsea and someone like Cancelo. We've touched on Spurs now or later. So I think for the majority of the opinion on this is that if you've got a Spurs player, you obviously keep them. We got on Son for the pod team, and we're obviously keeping him for the next few game weeks to see how he gets on. But if you are sitting there right now, my personal take is you would wait anyway to get on those. And then the final question I had, which I thought was quite an interesting one, was Jota or Foden? Now, very, very similar in statistics, very, very similar in price, but in looking at the statistics, they're incredibly similar. And Jota now, because Firmino is going to be out with a relatively serious hamstring injury, is just sort of, appeared to me now to be somebody who I mean, it wouldn't have been that way before, but I might even consider having over Foden if I want to change the structure of my team. Now, looking at the numbers, and I've just gone points per 90, Foden's ahead on points per 90, 6.49 to 6.06. Very, very similar on goals. Foden's got more assists, expected points. Jota's ahead of that. But as we make our way down, they're incredibly similar in terms of statistics across the board, again, other than crosses, which is the outlying one that Foden puts in a hell of a lot more of.
Stand out, that, doesn't it?
Yeah, but if you've got a choice, who would you go for, Foden or Jota at the moment?
Jota, probably not getting rotated.
Yeah,
and a lot of few quid cheaper.
Yeah, Tom.
Yeah. I'm not. I agree. I can't really put up a case for Foden. I've got Foden, so I wish I could, but I'd probably prefer to have Jota at the moment.
Yeah, I think what I would say is that it's just going to be Jota. When you look at the fixtures, they're similar as well, but that's where we're at. So to take a look ahead to game week 12, so let's look at the fixtures and then let's look at the captains to round off this week's podcast and show. The deadline is, because obviously it's a 12:30 kickoff, on a Saturday, so it's a Saturday deadline at 11 o'clock. So that's with Leicester against Chelsea. It's nice and condensed, Saturday and Sunday, plenty of 3 o'clock kickoffs. Villa Brighton, Burnley Palace, Newcastle Brentford, Norwich Southampton, Watford Man United, Wolves West Ham, Liverpool Arsenal on Sky Sports to watch. Man City Everton and Spurs and Leeds, both again live games. Now, Salah captain seems relatively obvious still, because he's on fire and he's performing incredibly well. But other options this week? Man United away at Watford. If you've got Ronaldo, maybe consider him.
Back Watford in that fixture, to be honest.
I know you would. Man City are playing Everton. Everton don't look that great. Maybe look at someone like Foden if you wanted to go there. Any of these teams' fixtures, anything stand out to you other than Salah playing at home against Arsenal?
I mean, it depends on your team, doesn't it? I've got Foden, so the only other option for me would be Foden. I don't know. Yeah, it's tough this week. I don't really like Salah. I know it's at Anfield, so I think Liverpool will win, but I don't think it's a guarantee that Salah gets on the score sheet or on the points there. Although he has every single week so far, so he probably will. But
5:30 live on Sky under the lights. That just screams to me a hat trick for Salah.
Yeah. I mean, I hope you're wrong because I've got.
You're going to go Foden. You're finally going to do it.
No. I talk about these things. I don't have much. Foden's look good still, but he's just not. He's not quite there on the clinical side of things. So I don't think that I can back him as captain. I'm happy having him in my team. I just don't want to back him as captain.
For me as well, I look for your big teams. I say big teams, Man City and Liverpool down the years, what they've done after a defeat. Let's not forget Liverpool lost the last game. They're going to bounce. They're going to bounce hard. That's a late kick-off on a Saturday on Sky. I fancy it. You know what? Salah hat-trick can come in. Don't be a fool. Go for Salah.
The only other one that really stood out to me on top of this was Chelsea playing Leicester, and Leicester aren't defending very well.
I just hate the early kickoff after an international break.
Yeah, everyone seems lethargic, don't they? It's never as fun as a game to back. And I also, talking about the fun of the game, I also really enjoy watching my captain play, like we've mentioned before. So that's why Salah right there would be great. And do you know what? Why not? No, I wouldn't captain Kane. But it was Salah against Arsenal. It seems like a good pick to me. To finish off, boys, your own teams. What are you thinking about doing this week?
I'm thinking about writing into fantasy football and asking them to just give me another wild card. My teams are awful. I don't even have a keeper playing this week.
Oh, of course
I've got Bachman and Raya.
Well, apparently, looking at it as well, when on the price change predictors, Bachman's going to go down in price in the next 2 days.
I was going to bring Bachman out for Foster anyway, as I needed to do it at some point in my life. So for me, that and then probably taking a -4 because I'm, thirsty, and getting James Vardy out, and maybe just throwing Callum Wilson in there.
Yeah, I like it. Taking a -4 at this stage as well. There's not wrong with that. Tom?
I don't know. I don't know this week, so I probably won't do anything.
Yeah, and looking at your team, I can't really fault that, to be honest.
Yeah. I don't love Vardy. I even though they're at home, I'll probably bench him. Maybe. I can't think of a clear. There's not anything that's obvious to me that I need to do right now. And to be honest, with Vardy, I know he's hit a bit of a rough patch and so have Leicester, but they've got 4 very good fixtures after that, and I'm willing to probably gamble on him a bit longer because of that. So I probably won't make any changes.
Are you going to be banking a transfer then? And then are you going to have 2 frees?
Yes.
So you've only got 1 free at the moment.
Yes.
So I mean that to me then seems like a relatively straightforward decision on that side of things.
I know, which makes a very boring "what would Tom do" section, but unfortunately, that this week I had a look at it, and I would just be making stuff up if I said it. Whereas these other weeks, I have actually genuinely considered pressing the button on those -12. So,
well, we'll wrap up there, boys, for this week, and just a parting shot that apparently Patrick Bamford had Kasper Schmeichel in goal for his fantasy team this week. Just so you know, I got a message through about that. I don't know if he's forgotten to change that one, but that's a big one. Didn't back his own team to score against them. But yeah, thanks very much, boys, for this week. Sorry, there's a technical glitch halfway through, so it might be an issue with uploading 2 YouTube videos, but I'll get those up together, and that'd be great. Thank you ever so much for liking and subscribing. Don't forget to follow us, All in Football Pod, All in Football P, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and then subscribe. And please like the video because it does help with its reach. So if you have watched it and you have liked it, or even if you haven't, give us a like. And thank you ever so much for tuning in. And I'm going to give this theme song thing a go again. Bye for now.
Awkward. I think we just cut it there.
There you go. Ooh. Didn't work, did it? But thanks anyway.